So here's my video on the light reactions of photosynthesis. And photosynthesis takes water and light to create food for the plants. However, it's much more complicated than that. So beginning with the light reactions, it has two systems, photosystem 2 and photosystem 1. Photosystem 2 takes place first, however, it was discovered second. That's why it's called photosystem 2. And photosystem 1 takes place after photosystem 2. So, in photosystem 2, photons from a light source such as sunlight or maybe a lamp in a green room is absorbed by chlorophyll, which is embedded in the thylakoid membrane. After the light is absorbed, the energy from the light goes through a reaction center, which is a complex of proteins that excites the electrons that are present. So when the electrons are excited, there's an electron acceptor called plastoquinone, which takes those electrons and passes them into the B6F complex. However, around the same time, the water that is being used in photosynthesis travels to the oxygen evolving complex. And the oxygen evolving complex hydrolyzes water, so it breaks it apart into oxygen, electrons, and hydrogen, which are protons. And the electrons from the water replace the electrons that are accepted in the plastoquinone. So from this B6F complex, it is a pump that allows protons that are in the stroma to enter the lumen, because the thylakoid membrane is semi-permeable, meaning it only allows certain things to come through, and protons are not one of those things. So when the B6F complex pumps the protons into the lumen, which is the thylakoid space, it allows the protons to go to another protein called ATP synthase, which phosphorylates ADP into ATP and then releases it back into the stroma. So starting with photosystem 1, which takes place second, photons also hit the photosystem and excites electrons that are there. Those electrons have their own acceptor, which is ferredoxin. Ferredoxin then transfers those electrons into the ferredoxin NADP reductase, which is also a protein that transforms the NADP into NADPH and releases the NADPH into the stroma. And just like the water that is absorbed into the plant replaces the electrons that are excited in photosystem 2, the same water transfers those electrons into plastocyanin, which replaces the electrons that were in photosystem 1 that were transferred into making the NADPH and released into the stroma. And both ATP and NADPH are released into the stroma to be used for the Calvin cycle.